Rain always made New York feel lonelier. Not quiet, never quiet, but lonelier, like the city's noise was trying to drown out its own pain. On that cold October night, Clara Winslow wrapped her long coat tighter as she stepped out of the subway on 91st Street. Her umbrella was broken, snapped in two by the wind, and her phone had died hours ago. She'd stayed late at the hospital, finishing her nursing shift, trying to convince herself that the unease in her chest was just exhaustion. But when she reached her apartment building, an old, narrow structure from the 1920s with iron fire escapes and peeling paint, something felt wrong. The light above the entrance flickered, humming like a dying bee. She paused. There was a shadow behind the frosted glass door. Someone was standing there, motionless. "Mr. Levin?" she called. Her landlord usually smoked by the door this late. No reply. The figure didn't move. Clara blinked, rain dripping from her eyelashes. When she opened the door, the hallway was empty. Just the dim light, the smell of damp carpet, and the hum of old pipes running beneath the floor. She laughed nervously to herself. "You're tired, Clara. That's all." But as she climbed the stairs to her third-floor apartment, she heard it, a slow, dragging sound, like bare feet sliding across the floor above her. Apartment 4B, the one that had been empty for 3 months. Her steps faltered. She remembered the story Mr. Levin told her when she moved in. The woman who used to live there, Emily Doran, had vanished last winter. The police said she ran away, but neighbors heard screams that night. And when they broke into the apartment, the windows were locked from the inside. Clara shook off the thought. New York was full of strange stories. People disappeared every day. Inside her apartment, she threw her coat on the couch, lit a candle. Her power had been flickering lately, and went to pour herself a glass of wine. The rain beat harder against the window. That's when she heard the knocking. 3 slow, hollow knocks. Coming from above. From apartment 4B. She froze, the wineglass trembling in her hand. And then, a faint voice, muffled by the ceiling. "Help me!" Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. She dropped the glass, and it shattered across the floor. The door upstairs the apartment was dead silent after that voice faded. Clara stood frozen among the glass shards, staring at the ceiling as rain hammered the windows. She wanted to believe she imagined it, but she knew she hadn't. The voice had been too real, too close. "Help me!" The echo lingered in her mind like smoke. She grabbed her phone, but the screen stayed black. Dead battery. Of course. Her eyes darted toward the ceiling again. Apartment 4B. Every sane part of her said don't go. Call the police. Wait until morning. But she couldn't ignore someone begging for help, not after what she'd seen working in the ER. That pleading tone, it wasn't the sound of madness. It was terror. Clara grabbed her flashlight from the drawer and stepped into the dim hallway. The building creaked as though it exhaled in her presence. Each step up the narrow staircase groaned under her weight. When she reached the 4th floor, she realized something strange. The hallway light above apartment 4B was out, completely dark. Her flashlight beam trembled as she raised it toward the door. The number 4B hung crooked, half torn from the wood. She hesitated, listening. Nothing, except the faint dripping of water somewhere deeper inside. "Hello?" she called softly. "It's Clara from downstairs. Are you all right?" Silence. Then tap. A faint sound from behind the door. Like someone moving. Her pulse quickened. She reached for the handle. It was ice cold. She pushed gently, and to her surprise, the door opened an inch. Unlocked. "Mr. Levin?" she whispered. "If you're here." The smell hit her first. Mold. Damp wood. And something else. Something metallic. The apartment was completely dark. The flashlight beam cut through floating dust. The living room looked frozen in time. An overturned chair, a layer of dust on every surface, and an old piano against the far wall with its lid half open. A few keys pressed down like unseen fingers still touched them. She stepped inside. The floorboards moaned under her shoes. "Hello?" Her light swept across the wall, and she froze. There were handprints. Hundreds of them. Smeared in something dark, covering the wallpaper from floor to ceiling. Her mouth went dry. Then came the whisper, right behind her ear. "Don't turn around." Clara's entire body locked in place. The flashlight trembled in her hand. She could feel breath, cold, uneven, against her neck. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she couldn't move. The whisper came again. "Please, help me." This time it sounded broken. Human. She turned, slowly, against every ounce of her fear. The beam caught a shape in the corner. A woman. Pale. Dripping wet. Her eyes wide. Her mouth open but silent. It was Emily Doran, the missing tenant. And she was staring right at Clara. Then, with a sudden shriek that didn't sound human, the figure lunged. Clara stumbled backward, falling against the piano. The lid slammed shut with a metallic clang, echoing through the building. When she looked again, the woman was gone. The apartment was empty. Only the sound of the rain and the echo of her own heartbeat remained. Back in her room later, Clara sat trembling on her bed, clutching a blanket. Her flashlight lay dead on the floor. "Hallucination," she whispered to herself. "You're exhausted. That's all." But she couldn't shake the image of that face, wet hair clinging to skin, eyes that looked pleading. At 3:12 a.m., as she finally began to doze off, her phone screen flickered to life for a moment. A notification appeared. New voicemail, 1:47 a.m. Clara frowned. She hadn't used her phone in hours. She pressed play. A woman's voice, whispering through static. Why did you come upstairs? Clara? Then came the sound of dripping water and faint laughter. Morning came gray and heavy. The rain hadn't stopped. It just fell softer, quieter, like it was tired of screaming. Clara sat by her window, eyes hollow from a sleepless night. Her phone lay on the table beside her, the voicemail still there, but she couldn't bring herself to listen again. The whisper, the laughter, it hadn't been her imagination. She'd heard her name. By 8 a.m., the hallways were alive again, neighbors slamming doors, children crying, a baby wailing somewhere downstairs. Ordinary life. And yet the ceiling above her still felt like a wound. She needed answers. When she went to find Mr. Levin, the landlord, she found him in the basement, smoking beside the boiler like always. His eyes widened when she mentioned apartment 4B. "You didn't go in there, did you?" he asked, voice rough. "I heard someone calling for help," Clara said. "I thought someone. No one lives there." He said it too fast, too harsh. "Mr. Levin," Clara pressed. "What really happened to Emily Doran?" The old man's hand trembled slightly as he flicked ash from his cigarette. "Some things in this building, they don't want to be remembered. That's not an answer." He sighed, then gestured toward a rusted cabinet in the corner. From inside, he pulled out a stack of old rent records and a single photograph, faded and water-stained. "This was Emily," he said. The photo showed a young woman standing in front of the same apartment door. She was smiling, but her eyes looked tired, almost bruised. Behind her, a tall man stood with his arm around her shoulders. "Her boyfriend," Levin muttered. "Name was Thomas Crane. Photographer. They moved in 3 years ago. Nice at first, but later we heard fights. Screaming. Then one night she disappeared. He said she'd left him. But the next morning, he was gone too. Left everything behind. Gone where? No one knows. Police searched, but they didn't find anything." Clara studied the photograph again. Behind the couple, just faintly, was something she hadn't noticed at first, reflected in the window near the door. A shadow. A third figure. It looked like someone standing inside the apartment. "Can I keep this?" she asked. Levin hesitated, then nodded. "If you're smart, Miss Winslow, you'll move out. Tonight." Back upstairs, Clara placed the photo on her desk and stared at it. The reflection gnawed at her. Who was that third person? Her computer buzzed to life, and she searched for old news articles. Missing woman, Emily Doran, 29. The story was short. Police suspected she fled an abusive partner, but friends claimed she was planning to leave him, not run away with him. And then Clara saw something that froze her blood. a detail buried in the report. A maintenance worker reported strange water damage in the building's walls following the disappearance. Apartment 4B was sealed for several months. Water damage. Like the smell in that room. Like the dripping she'd heard. Her hands shook as she opened the floor plan of the building online. Behind the bathroom wall of 4B was an old, unused water tank, sealed decades ago. That's where the dripping came from. And suddenly she knew. She grabbed her flashlight and hurried upstairs again. The door to 4B still hung open, the air colder than before. The smell of damp metal filled her nose as she crossed the room. In the bathroom, she pushed the mirror aside and saw it. A section of wall slightly bulging, the paint warped and dark. When she touched it, the plaster crumbled away easily. Beneath it was a panel of rusted metal. A tank. She pried at the edges until her nails bled. The panel groaned, then snapped open with a hiss of wet air. Inside, she screamed. Floating in the murky black water was a human body, or what was left of one. A woman's bones tangled in the remains of a dress, hair drifting like seaweed. A ring glinted faintly on her finger. The same ring from the photograph. Emily Doran had never left. Clara stumbled back, choking on the stench. Her vision blurred. Then she saw something move in the reflection of the mirror behind her. Emily's ghost, pale and silent, standing just outside the doorway. But this time, she didn't look angry. She looked sad. Clara, the voice whispered, softer now. He's still here. Then, all the lights in the apartment went out.